the adaptation we always want is to be stronger, more force production. So the weight always has to go up so that the weight can go up. And linear progression gets that for us so easily, so simply. So the thing that people get bored with this, for us, is a virtue. Its simplicity is why it's wonderful.
You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome to Barbell Logic. I am Scott Hambrick. That over there is Matt.
What's up, everybody?
Matt Reynolds is wearing a baby blue, ribbed, raglan-sleeved pullover today. I don't think I've ever seen him do such a thing.
Really? Well, it's 8 degrees outside.
Yeah, but what's the temperature inside?
It's actually cold AF in here.
What's the
Obviously,
temperature?
you and I have talked about I think it's 64 in the house.
Okay, I'll allow it.
It's 64 in the house because we've been running we got our first real wood fireplace. We've been building fires every day. But the fam is at school today. This is their homeschool day where they go to public speak and stuff in front of other homeschool kids. So no one is in the house, and I'm podcasting with you. So the fire's not on. So the heat is still set on 64 down here downstairs. So it's a little chilly.
Will you let me come and speak to the homeschool group?
I mean, I would let you come and speak to the homeschool group.
I've got some stuff I need to say to them.
They let me come and speak once to the homeschool group.
Once.
And, actually, yeah. Actually, to the dads. Just to the dads.
Oh, yeah?
They put us all in a room, closed the door, and then I red-pilled them.
Did you give them the sleepover talk?
I did not give them the sleepover talk, but that's probably needs to come next, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't let your kids sleep over at people's houses that aren't your grandma and grandpa.
Yeah,
and sometimes not them either.
Yeah, like if Grandpa died and Grandma remarried Frank.
Nope.
No sleepovers. We don't know Frank.
No, we don't know Frank. So let's talk about some programming for beginners.
Yeah, we have talked about why we train for strength. What are the exercises that we would use to train for strength? We've talked about the equipment you need to train for strength. We've talked about what to do on your first day. Well, now we need to know what to do on our second day, on our third day, in the next 60 days.
That's right.
And we use what we call linear progression. And linear progression is a very, very simple program that when you graph out the progress that you make, it makes a line. So you remember from your Algebra 1 class that functions, you can graph them.
That's true.
And the graph of the linear progression function is a line. It's x plus 5.
X plus 5 what?
Pounds.
Yeah, the line, that linear progression, so you get this angled line, right, that is increasing.
It has a positive slope.
Positive slope, there we go. That was what I was going for. Is because the weight keeps going up. Everything else on this program is going to stay the same.
Let's talk about that.
The volumes, like how much you do, is going to stay the same. The frequency, which is how often you do it, is going to stay the same. And we'll get detailed about that. And the only thing that's going to change is that the weight's going to go up a little bit each session. So before we get into the weeds of this, here's what's important to know. If you can go into the gym 3 days a week and you can add a little weight to the same movements every single time you go to the gym 3 days a week, and you can do that for 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks, then we have to think about it for a second. Why would you do anything else? Right? The only downside to LP for people is that, for linear progression, is that it can get a little bit boring. But it works so much better than everything else. Yeah. And so unless you're somebody that just cannot focus long enough.
Just then focus long enough, guys.
Yeah, then you're not training. Right? Yeah, it's the difference between training and exercise.
Let's talk about that boredom piece for a second. The program, there are 2 workouts. You do them every other trip. So your first week is going to be the A workout. Wednesday will be the B workout. Friday will be the A workout again. Next week's BAB. So the A workout could be, for instance, 3 sets of 5 squats, 3 sets of 5 presses, 1 set of 5 deadlift. The next week, I'm sorry, not the next week, workout B, 3 sets of 5 squats with 5 more pounds, 3 sets of 5 bench presses, and then 1 set of 5 deadlift with 5 more pounds than Monday. And we just go A, B, A, B, A, B. And so people say, oh, that's boring. I'm only doing these 4 movements, and I'm doing the squat and the deadlift every single time. I need something for variety. I beg you to focus on something different. Don't focus on the fact that you're doing the same movements and you're in what seems like a rut. Focus on the fact that you're putting 15 pounds on your squat and deadlift every week. Focus on the fact that your body is changing and you're going to need to buy new pants in the 6th week. Focus on the improvement. Focus on the fact that in your 9th week, you're the strongest person at your gym. Focus on those things.
In week 6, you're probably the strongest you've ever been.
For sure.
Maybe even, by week 2, by week 3, you might be the strongest you've ever been in your life, right? For a lot of you. And so we focus on what we can do. It's more about what we're doing, what we can do. It's about that performance. And then there's this massive cascade effect of all of these other wonderful benefits that happen to us aesthetically, emotionally, relationally, that are oddly tied back to putting 5 more pounds on the bar every single workout.
Yep.
It's literally that simple. That's why linear progression is so beautiful. You don't have to worry about, I don't understand the programming. I cut this out of Name That Fitness magazine. That's, I can't.
I don't know what to do.
I can't quite get a handle on it. That's right. Any of those things, like this fixes all of that. It's so simple, and and because it's simple, it's incredibly effective. Now, we've talked about this before. It's hard. It's not easy. Now, I'll be honest, it's actually not even that hard in the beginning.
No. If you come in, this is pretty typical, a guy, and you squat 100 pounds for 3 sets of 5, plus or minus something, that's your first session. You're going to add 15 pounds to your squat a week.
Right.
So your first session, you're going to go 100, 105 on
105,
Wednesday.
110 on Friday.
Yep.
115 the following Monday. You just keep going up a little bit.
6 weeks later, you're going to squat 190.
And it's not going to be easy anymore.
It's not going to be easy anymore. It's going to get a whole lot harder. But it's not that easy anymore. But you already will have been receiving the benefits. Your body's going to have changed. If you've been doing blood work, I bet your cholesterol's lower.
Yeah. Can't guarantee it.
Your insulin sensitivity's improved.
That's right. Your HbA1c is going to be better numbers, most likely. Your blood pressure, your normal resting blood pressure will be better. Your blood sugar is often better. So there is this incredible cascade of positive effects that most of our people see, right? It's not the absolute savior of the world. That's not what this thing is, but it is highly beneficial for everyone who does it.
So that's LP. You come in Monday, squat, press, deadlift. Come in Tuesday, squat, bench press, deadlift. The squat and the deadlift go up 5 pounds. Friday, squat, bench press, deadlift. You add 5 pounds to your Wednesday workout.
Yep.
You add 5 pounds to your Monday press workout because we press and bench press every other session. So in my example here, week 1, you're only going to press twice. Week 2, you'll press once, but you'll bench press twice. So those flip flop, and you add 5 pounds. Now you're going to do your squats. You're going to do your warm ups. We talked about a little bit of this in the episode on your first session. Yep. You're going to do your warm ups. You're going to do your work set of 5. You're going to rack the bar. You're going to wait 3 minutes. You're going to do your next set. And you can probably start, if you've got extra equipment around, you've got another rack, you've got an extra barbell, you can start warming up your press at this point in between. Yep. In between your squat sets, and you're going to, every 3 minutes, you're going to do another set of 5 on the squat. These sessions aren't going to take you more than around 40 minutes in the beginning. Now, by that week 6, when the squat is 190 pounds on the Monday, you may need to start wet resting 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes.
Right. Taking a few more warm-ups sometimes.
Yep. In week 12, if you're a Haas, and there are some people that get there, your squat's going to be 380. You may need to rest 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes.
Now, think about that for a second. Like this, there are people listening going, first off, your squat, if you do this right, is going to approximately double in 6 or 7 weeks. It's going to double. And people are listening, they're like, that's not possible. Not only is it possible,
It's expected and required.
it's the norm. It's the norm, right? Now, if it didn't, maybe you're an outlier, you probably did it wrong, but I want to make sure you understand, like, that is the norm, right? For any, like, even for people in their 70s, right? They're going to start squatting with an empty bar or maybe their body weight. So an empty bar, maybe it's a female type bar. It's a 15 kilo bar, a 33 pound bar. 6-7 weeks later, they're squatting 70 pounds, 75 pounds. And that's not that much weight, but it's twice as heavy as it was when they started.
Yep.
Your squat's going to double. And if you do this right, you do it well, you're able to run it for 12 weeks, which not everybody is. But if you are younger than middle age, and very healthy, or
Wait a
even
minute.
early middle age.
What's middle age? Let's put a number on it.
If you're under 35, right? Certainly, if you're under 35 and healthy, then you should be able to run this thing for 12 weeks. If you're 35 to 45, you might be able to run it for 12 weeks, but it's going to be harder. You're going to take smaller jumps. We'll talk about that. And if you're over 45, it's probably not going to go for 12 weeks, but just about everybody can make progress on this for 8 weeks or so. And again, it comes down to this simple equation that if it's linear progression because the weight goes up a little bit every single time and everything else stays the same. I just keep doing 3 sets of 5 repetitions on the squat. I keep doing 3 sets of 5 repetitions on the press or the bench press, and I keep doing 1 set of 5 repetitions on the deadlift, and I just keep going up a little bit every single time. You don't have to add any other exercises. You don't have to add any conditioning work. You don't have to add anything to linear progression.
Let's talk about conditioning work.
Well,
I have some friends that have been training now they've just now, I've called them the Nephilim. You've heard me talk about them lately.
Yep.
They've just recently, the gentleman just recently finished LP pretty much. His squat was 385 for 3x5.
right.
We could probably push it a little bit longer, but I don't see any sense in just twisting the guy off. But so around 385. Lost 5 inches in the waist in LP.
Right. How much conditioning did you have him do?
Well, I'll be honest. The last 3 weeks or so, we were rowing in the midweek on the C2 row. We drop out the deadlift, but that's in the last 3 weeks of
Rowing on the actual C2
on
rower.
the C2 rower.
Right. So the last 3 weeks of his linear progression, you started to add in 1 conditioning session per week.
Right.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing the 5 inches he lost didn't occur in the last 3 weeks. That wasn't.
No.
It wasn't all right.
Probably haven't lost any inches in the last 3. Be
Right.
honest.
So the question is, how does the guy lose inches? Not doing cardio in air quotes, right? And only coming in and doing squats and presses and deadlifts. How is that possible?
Well, week 3, you'll know why that's possible because you're going to be huffing and puffing.
Sometimes day 1, you'll know that's possible.
Sometimes day 1. But you'll definitely know it by week 3 when you rack that first working set of squats and you're huffing and puffing. We do 3 sets of 5 squats, 3 sets of 5 pressing motions, whatever that is, a set of 5 deadlifts. That's 7 high-intensity interval training intervals.
Yep.
And,
where every muscle in your body is basically working,
Yep.
right? I'm getting back to things. Been training hard for just a short period of time now. And yesterday I deadlifted 405 for a set of 5. Now my best is over 700, right? 405 for a set of 5. I'm just getting back into it. My breathing was elevated 8 minutes later. It was still elevated. I was like, good grief, right? Like it is obviously a high intensity interval piece of training. So that HIIT that everybody talks about, barbell training is that in the beginning.
Is that. Yeah. People will do kettlebell swings. That's something that people will do for HIIT, Yep. And you do a kind of a squat motion and you swing, if you're a bad machine, you might swing a 75-pound kettlebell. And it's a fairly explosive movement. The squat won't be as explosive, but the movement shares a lot in common with that of the kettlebell swing, though. The arms aren't moving, but the hips and the knees and the back are doing very similar things. Not a 75-pound kettlebell. Maybe a 315-pound barbell in the back.
Correct.
It's significant amount of conditioning. So that is the program. We come in and we add 5 pounds. Now, before you go in, you're going to have listened to our equipment episode. And in that show, we talk about a training log, and you need to get a paper training log. You don't want a spiral bound one, and you don't want one that's glued up. You want one that's sewn. So like a moleskin notebook is the deluxe, or just the marble cover, the black and white composition notebook. Those are awesome. They won't fall apart. You can throw them in your gym bag, spill coffee on them. They're gonna give you good service
have them
for
20 years from now. That's right.
And you're gonna record what you do in the book. Squat 3x5, 105 today. Go ahead and write down your next session. Squat 3x5, 110. Now, when you go in, you don't have to think about it. It's already in there. You're going to keep meticulous records. You're going to put the day's date on there. And you're going to do this for a number of weeks. Depending on who you are, depending on how much your stature is, depending on if you're male or female, because that's all there is. Depending on how old you are, at some point, the 5-pound jumps are going to become difficult for you. So we still stay in a linear progression, but remember it has a slope, that positive slope of X plus 5. For the press and the bench press, that plus 5 piece gets pretty hard, particularly for ladies, and you'll want to change that to X plus 2.5. It's still linear, but we're going to decrease the increment of increases.
Yes, and the positive slope changes, the angle of that slope changes just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit.
Right, so instead of 5-pound jumps, you make a little less than 5-pound jumps, depending on your size and what the lift is. And so
I have a very small lady who I had to move to 2.5-pound jumps on her press at 37.5 pounds last week.
Yes.
Well, actually, from 35 to 40 was clearly going to be too much, and so she did 37.5.
Yep.
So you're gonna find that happens, and that happens for men too, just at a bigger weight. Like your bench press might be 205, perhaps, and then you'll go to 207.5, 210, 212.
Guys will often go to 2.5-pound jumps, even like at 100 pounds on their press.
On the press,
They might press 100 pounds and have to go to 102.5, and then 105, and then 107.5. And exactly where you make that choice, so when to make smaller jumps, really isn't. Don't overthink it. It's not that important. It starts getting kind of grindy, starts slowing down, getting real hard. You can make smaller jumps, right? And so you'll need, and we've talked about this in the equipment that you need. You're going to need a set of fractional plates to do that. At the very least, you're going to need a set of 1.25 plates, right? So we like Mike from Microgains. You can go to microgains.com and get those, but there are other places to get them as well. But you've got to have those because your gym isn't going to have them.
No.
The vast majority of gyms are not going to have plates that are 1.25 pounds. So those just have to go into your gym bag. And you probably will, especially ladies, are probably going to need some weights that are even smaller than that, down to probably 0.5 pounds, so that you can take 1-pound jumps.
So when you go in and you do your press or your bench press, and you're going to do 3x5 presses at, let's say, 95, and you finish it and you say, I'm not sure I can get 100 next time. That was miserable. Don't worry about it. Write down 97.5 for the next session and go ahead and move to the 2.5-pound jumps. I don't want you doing it too early, but the instant you think that you might need to, go ahead and do it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yep.
It's fine.
Totally agree.
You're still gonna make 15 pounds of progress on the press per month at 2.5-pound jumps. And if you did that for 12 months, that's 180 pounds. Well, you can't do that, but even slow is fast.
That's right. Let's talk about those. I want to talk about those variables a little bit, just in a very sort of remedial, elementary way. There are really 3 variables that we can change for programming. We can change the weight, which we call the intensity, right? We can change the volume, which is how many sets and reps we're doing. And we can change the frequency, which is how often we do it. So we can train 3 times a week, which is what we're suggesting you do. You could train 2 times a week. You could train 4 times a week. Some people try to train 5 or 6 or even 7 times a week.
Yeah, don't do that.
But I want to be clear that the reason we manipulate the intensity or the weight, right? So when I say the word intensity, I'm not talking about how hard it feels, how intense it feels. Well, it was an intense set of squats. That's not what I'm talking about. That is, the intensity literally means the weight on the bar. How heavy was it, right? It's a measure of magnitude. The reason that's the thing that we make go up and we keep the other things the same is because we're trying to get stronger, And stronger is all about force production. We sold you on strength in episode 1. If you're still here, you ought to be sold on the strength deal, right? So the weight goes up because when the weight goes up, our force production to move that weight has to go up. We have to push more force into the floor, into the bar, against the floor and into the barbell. We have to produce more force to be able to move the barbell. And so as long as I can keep making force go up, which I do by adding weight, I don't need to change how many times per week I train, and I don't need to change the number of sets and reps I do. I just keep the sets and reps the same. I keep 3 days a week the same, and I just go up in weight a little bit. And that's all you have to understand about programming in the beginning. This is the Getting Started series. The day will come 8 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now, 12 weeks from now, when you won't be able to add weight to the bar every single session. And then we'll have to manipulate potentially one of those other variables, but not yet. And we never want to get into a rush to manipulate frequency or volume, the sets and reps, or how many times a week we train, as long as we can keep adding weight to the bar. The goal in the end is just to keep adding weight to the bar. And as time goes on, advanced lifters, ultimately, they're still just trying to add weight to the bar. They're just not able to do it every session like you are.
Can confirm.
Right? And so the other piece of this, and I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, is that your job as a lifter on linear progression is to stay on it as long as possible. And when I stay on it when I say that, I mean keep adding weight every session. I don't mean stay on it for 6 weeks and then go on vacation or get sick and have to restart or just take a break or backslide into Satan's arms or whatever that is. So that's a joke. So the idea is you come in every session and you add a little bit of weight. The person that can do that the longest was the most successful at the linear progression.
Yeah, and we've already done a great number of episodes about programming theory and more advanced concepts around this programming. But know that we believe in the stress recovery adaptation cycle where the adaptation we always want is to be stronger, more force production. So the stress to get that adaptation has to be specific to the adaptation we want. So the weight always has to go up so that the weight can go up. And linear progression gets that for us so easily, so simply. So the thing that people get bored with this, for us, is a virtue. Its simplicity is why it's wonderful.
That's right.
The simplicity makes, frankly, dumb people and midwits bored with this. They need flashing lights and lollipops and shit to stay excited about this. I'm excited when the weight on the bar goes up. I'm excited when my body looks better. I'm excited when I feel better. And LP is the best, quickest, most economical, simplest, most elegant way ever discovered to do this stuff.
And it gives you quantifiable evidence that it's working. Because all you're doing is adding weight to the bar. Right? Yep. If you did the exact same thing last week, but this week you added weight to the bar, you got better. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if the weight you added to the bar was 1 or 2 pounds or 5 pounds or 10 pounds. If you did the exact same amount of work, sets and reps, train 3 times a week, but you added a little weight to the bar, you quantifiably got better. It's that simple. And then you do that over and over and over again, 3 times a week, week after week after week, for as long as it will work.
In future Getting Started episodes, we're gonna talk about what to do when linear progression starts to come to an end and how to get the most out of that. We're going to talk about how to behave under the bar when it starts getting really heavy. Linear progression is going to require more of you than you ever thought or knew was possible. We're going to talk about how to dig down deep and find the inner reserves necessary to make.
You know what I love about it though is that that's not the case day 1 or week 1 or week 2, and so you slowly learn how to work a little harder as time goes on. Right? For most of you in the first week or 2, you're just really going to be practicing the form. The weight's not going to feel that heavy, right? And then over time, your form's going to get better if you do it right. And your weight is going to get heavier, and the work is going to get a little harder, and the work is going to get a little harder, and the work is going to get a little harder. But you're not going to walk in one day and get smashed by the weight when you were fine 2 days before. That's not going to happen. It's a little incremental increases is what makes this thing work so well. And so that's why we love it. It just, it's tremendous.
Keep your eye on the prize, people. It works. Go in there, get started, do those first sessions. Give us some field reports. If you're one of these people that's getting started with us in this Getting Started series, please send an email and let us know how it's going. Send it to questions@barbell-logic.com. Send your questions about what you're doing, if you have those. If you don't have them, send us the field report anyway. Take that before picture, take some videos, let us know how it's going, take some pictures of your log, and send it to questions@barbell-logic.com. Put Getting Started in the subject line. We would love to hear how it's going.
And then next week, Scott, one of the things we're going to talk about is as you get in the middle of that LP, how do we recover properly? We're going to talk about recovery. We're going to talk about eating, resting. What we do when we're not under the bar is what we're going to approach next week.
There's some old gym lore that says the gains ain't made in the gym. They're made in the bed and in the kitchen.
That's right.
So we'll talk about that in a future show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Those are a big help to us. We've been pushing and asking for those, and we've been getting them, and the downloads have been going up again.
Yeah.
They've been going up again. I think they help. So help us out by doing that.
Scott, did you mention if you want somebody to help hold your hand through this process, through the whole LP process, that's what we do. You can email experience@barbell-logic.com and just reach out and say, hey, I think I'd like some help. I'm not sure, but I'd like to know. And we'll reach out and we'll talk to you about that. And we'll have you video yourself and we'll break down those videos for you and talk you through the process.
You can do it. If you don't do it, you don't care about yourself as much as the people that do it.
That's right.
Go take your medicine, guys. The iron pill. Take the iron pill today. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.